Right, that's me. Okay. Hi. I'm Paul Idden. I'm here. I work as a consultant and specification advisor to Poole Waite, ironmongery people who are outside, a row of my colleagues there. I'm an architect by training and by inclination, and I'm also vice president of Manchester Society of Architects, and I actually run their CPD program. I've already recruited Russell, his colleague, to come and do a CPD on fire doors. And interestingly, first speaker was talking about competence. So one of the areas that's under the Building Safety Act for architects is increased powers under the Architects Registration Board. Any architects in the audience? Yeah, you'll know all about this. It now is mandatory to do 35 hours a year CPD for an architect. By my research, architects do at least 100. They're just not very good at recording it. Anyway, competence. Okay, I'm here to talk about this. I'm going to talk about fire doors, ironmongery, but I'm also going to talk about another area of risk. Okay, I work a lot with some of my colleagues who work for Building Design Partnership, Shepherd Robson, Day Architectural, and issues on things like, well, risk in terms of infection control. Infection prevention, it's the big word in the NHS. Okay, when is a door not a door? When it's ajar. And why would a door be ajar when it's got a closer on it? Okay, the whole idea is that fire doors work because effectively they're a hinged piece of wall that secures a compartment in real terms, in a way the staircase is basically a flop down piece of floor. Okay, so the idea is to keep the compartmentation, to keep the door shut and prevent loss of life and prevention of loss of property, okay? Here's a door from 2016 that's from a school in Dorset, and it looks pretty good. There was a fire raging behind it. Fire doors work. Fire doors work if they're closed, okay? I couldn't help noticing before when we were wandering in and out here, there were some fire doors here that were actually propped open with wedges. That's a lot more common than people think. Okay, so the door is intact because it's relatively unscathed after the fire, because it did its job and maintained the integrity of the compartment because it was held shut by the ironmongery, and that's the job of some specifically critical pieces of ironmongery. I know we all take this for granted, but believe me, this stuff is very important, okay? The door closer. You can see them up at the top there. You can see them up at the top there. They're the things that make sure the door's closed if it's not propped open. And of course, the door wouldn't work unless the hinges were intact, okay? And so that's there. And then after that, you've got, and my colleague will be following there talking about the important bit about seals. Go on, you're going to do it. Yeah, for intumescent seals and smoke seals. Okay, when the door is shut, they all work, okay? So you could say the door did this job because the ironmongery held it shut. So you could say a fire door is only as good as the ironmongery that keeps it in place. I think that's a fair comment. And it worked. That's the other side of the door. Okay, I don't know how long the fire went on for, but that was the side that exposed for fire. There's not much recognizable there, of course. And it's, so I'll click the next one there. There we go. Approved document B. I mean, obviously, we've got the Building Safety Act now. In one of my jobs in looking after the CPD program for the Manchester Society of Architects is that we talk about the Building Safety Act, approved documents B, etc., the British standards. And it's quite a confusing area. I'm sure the architect over there will probably agree that it's not. The Building Safety Act, all 265 pages, is not a simple document. So that covers this. I won't go too much into the actual documentation, but suffice to say, this really hasn't changed much in 20 years or more, because maintaining a compartment is the key thing. I was talking to a fire officer. I don't know if Hayley's here. There she is, hi, at the back. And we were talking about the importance of maintaining compartmentation. I've got to confess here, my dad was a fire officer in Merseyside Fire Brigade. Well, it was Liverpool Fire Brigade, actually. I am a Scouser. I actually haven't lived there for 40 years, so I think they call me a plastic Scouser now, or is it a woolly back? Any Scousers here? Oh, is it? Oh, okay, right. Well, there you go. Okay, now obviously the Building Safety Act is a whole discussion within itself about building and risk, higher risk buildings above 18 metres and where you got more than two areas of accommodation. So I won't go too much into that. So let's talk about some of the essentials. Okay, what are the main bits of ironmongery that's on a fire door? Now, I've been told by my esteemed colleagues here that there is specific rules of engagement in how you talk about ironmongery on a door. Okay, you list them in a very particular order. Tell me if I'm right here, Alex, but number one is the door closer. Am I correct? See, I got it wrong already. Okay, but I'm only an architect, okay. Okay, so we need the hinges because that holds the door to the frame, okay. Is the closer next, Alex? Thank you, thank you. Okay, got those two wrong. Then locks and latches, handles, signage, door seals, and then on top of that, of course, you're going to have things like intermeshing grills, vision panels, X-ray vision panels if you're in hospitals. And of course, all of those are going to be fire rated. Well, most of them will be fire rated. The most important bits, and the bits that everybody needs to know, the most important bits on a door, are the hinges and the closer. Everything else effectively gets sacrificed. Okay. So that's a bunch of ironmongery. Okay, there you've got some ironmongery there. What do we mean by the correct ironmongery? Well, that's the ironmongery you need. And the important bits, the hinges, you can see on there, they are of a current valid fire test certificate. Okay, that's the important thing. The other thing as well is the doors and all its components need to match the fire rating of the door. So it's an FD30, FD60. Have you ever seen an FD30S? That means smoke seal, right? So that, but the person coming after me is going to talk far more about that than I am. The point is that we've got to be careful how you specify this stuff. I'm speaking to the architect in the audience, any other specifiers. We know that on Grenfell Tower there's some fairly drastic failures with ironmongery, as well as the fire doors themselves. So I've been writing the CPD on that, and it makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck, some of the failures. So what do you need there? Well, you need somebody who knows what they're talking about. And, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, some of my colleagues I work with at Poole Waite, they know embarrassing amounts about ironmongery. They know everything down to the screws. It's far more than I do because architects need to know about cladding and all sorts of other things as well. So it's always important to deal with an expert, and that gives you peace of mind because then you can sleep at night. I was talking to the fire officer there, and every building I did had an alternative means of escape, which I know is an issue in London at the moment in buildings over 30 metres. I couldn't believe we're still building buildings with one staircase. My dad, God bless you, Dad, he would have been turning in his grave thinking that. And the other thing, of course, with this is in specifying or using ironmongery under the Building Safety Act, you've got the golden thread of information. And of course, what everybody, talking about technology, what everybody's realizing there is the golden thread of information means that they can find you. You can be identified. So they'll know who specified the ironmongery. They know who fitted it. That's what it's for. Okay, so the golden thread is important in the value chain. Value, that's another one. Russell talked about cost. I'm going to talk a bit about cost later. As an architect, when we talk about value engineering, that's a real expression I really don't like to hear. What we're talking about is cheap. We're not talking about value, we're talking about cheap. Okay. When was the last time you washed your hands? Yeah? It's an astonishing fact that since 2013, I looked at it, in terms of fire in healthcare and hospitals, according to the government, there's been 6 fatalities in 10 years and 320 injuries. Most fire officers will know the majority of casualties are generally in residential. So we've got to have safety measures with fire, but let's talk about another area of risk, and that's another product of ironmongery, Okay, are you the kind of person, when you go into a toilet, okay, you go into these expensive toilets and you've got automatic taps and soap dispensers, hugely expensive. You put your hand on, it gives you some soap, you do that. Then the expensive infrared taps, and they do that. And then you go to the expensive Dyson hand dryers, which cost about £2,500 each, okay? And then you go to the door, okay? Now, the fact of the matter is, 85% of men aged 16 to 34 don't wash their hands after going to the toilet. And more surprisingly, there's a proportion of females who don't either. So having gone through all of that expensive process, you're now going to touch a contaminated door handle. So it doesn't make sense, really, does it? But we're back to cost again. Antimicrobial gets value engineered out. Okay? Well, 5% of infections in hospitals are caught in hospitals. 5%. Okay? But let's let the experts talk about this. The Imperial College London have done a lot of work in this area. And what they're saying here, the pandemic has really shone a light on the role that surfaces play in the transmission of disease. That's not working very well, is it? Okay, that gives you a bit of an example of the number of people who walk through a door. Okay, I won't leave that on too long. It started with a contaminated telephone handle. They did an experiment where they contaminated the telephone handle with cauliflower mosaic virus in an intensive care unit, neonatal unit. Within 4 hours, it was spread all over that unit. Within the following days, it spread everywhere. Now, luckily, humans aren't affected by cauliflower mosaic virus. You're not going to get a broccoli disease or anything like that. But the point is that it spread. Now, if you substitute that cauliflower mosaic virus for something like, I don't know, norovirus, MRSA, or something like that, then if you're immunocompromised, or you're a premature baby, or you're a cancer sufferer, that's a significant risk. So anyway, let's talk about cost. I won't go into too much into this, but basically, we're talking about cost value engineering outdoors. That's the cost. The main reasons for sickness absences in the UK, in what year was that, over the past few years, is minor illnesses. What's a minor illness? Gastroenteritis, colds, flu, the kind of things that most people shrug off. Okay, and what does that equate to? Nearly 150 million sick days. That's about 4.5 sick days per person who is working. Astonishing. And where is the main problem? People who face other people. The caring industries, the face-to-face, sales and customer service. The people who deal with other people. The people we rely on, actually. Okay, but as one of the greatest villains of the 20th century, Joseph Stalin said, if one person dies, it's a tragedy. If 1 million people die, it's a statistic. Okay, so let's make it personal. This is Mona. Mona is just near 99 years old. She's a mother of 3, grandmother of 7, a great-grandmother of 12. She survived diphtheria at the age of 8. That was before the National Health Service, by the way, and before antibiotics were available. She survived the Great Depression. She was one of 7 children who survived out of 10. 3 of her siblings died before the age of 2. She went through World War II, and she was hospitalized in March this year for 9 weeks because of sepsis. Now, that's a picture of her now, smiling. She's okay. She's nearly 99. Okay, norovirus broke out in the hospital she was staying in, and she didn't see anybody for 9 days. And after 7 days, she stopped eating and drinking. Okay, and luckily she started eating and drinking again. When we're talking about human cost, just think about that for a minute. And just to let you know, that's my mum. I spent 4 hours talking her back into eating and drinking. And do you know the thing was? She never caught it. but it spread right the way throughout the ward. So how does it work? Well, it's a coating, basically. It's a very simple idea. It's a coating, and it disrupts and inhibits the spread of microorganisms. It's silver ions, basically. It disrupts the cell membranes, and it kills them in different periods, usually after about 10 minutes with things like MRSA. It's not working. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Okay, that's a horror story, isn't it? That's actually a disabled toilet in a coffee bar, a very, very famous coffee bar, okay? And these are one of the most popular products that Poole Waite make, okay? Do you think that's clean? Do you think somebody who's disabled might go in and pick up a bug there and not know they've picked it up? And that's the problem. These are big numbers we're talking about, people with infections. Big, big numbers. They'd never know where they got it from. And it's overlooked. It very rarely gets cleaned. So, first thing you do, makes it antimicrobial. Then you still have to clean it, but basically you know it's working. It's a bit like holiday insurance or a seatbelt. I often think about quantity surveyors who value engineer products, and I think, does that mean they don't believe in insurance? Do they believe in seatbelts? Because they add cost to a car, airbags, things like that. And the thing about insurance, as well as somebody told me, is that it's a gamble that something's not going to happen. Well, this is the same thing. It's an insurance policy. It's quite simple. You can still have fire resistance, but you can also do more than that. And you can address other risks at the same time. That's a microbial range by Poole Waite in different finishes. And it's one of a range of products which is very easy to fit, very easy to use, and it carries on working for the lifetime of the product. So when one of the issues I heard from a door manufacturer was, oh, we don't need it now because the pandemic's over. Well, COVID-19 was transmitted through air, basically. It wasn't actually by touch. But if you looked at the statistics before, plenty of other diseases are actually transmitted by touch. And we're talking tens or hundreds of thousands of casualties. So in summary, prevention is always better than the cure, whether it's fire or it's disease, or spread of disease. Yeah? Choose the correct door ironmongery. It means a safety and peace of mind, especially with the golden thread of information. You need to know you've got it covered when you can sleep at night. Antimicrobial ironmongery is a fail-safe option. It's a form of insurance. Okay, why wouldn't you take out insurance? And you do. You have insurance for all sorts of things. I'm slightly over time now. Okay, always use an experienced, trained ironmongery specialist, and if in doubt, use your sleeve. And finishing up, Poole Waite. They're fitting stuff in number 10 Downing Street, the British Museum, in offices. So think about all the environments. It's not just healthcare. It's all the environments where you can pick that up. Okay? And there's lots of other services they offer too. Antimicrobial coating surfaces, fire door, inspecting fire doors to make sure they work, powder coating and spraying, etc., etc. Okay. And I've run out of time there, so thank you. Sorry, I've run out of yours.